Hello, guys. So today I wanted to talk to you about my drum kits in plural because, well, right off the bat, I have to say that I own proudly two of them. Well, technically three, but I don't use one as a drum kit. So let's start with what do I have in here? My glorious Emporium. This is, of course, an electronic drum kit because, well, I live in a block of flats and owning acoustic drums in this block is basically impossible, in most of blocks actually, I think. So I have to resort to the electric drums. And to be honest, the conversion for me, because previously I played for over 5 years, 5.5 years, on an acoustic drum kit. So the conversion was pretty painful to me. Still is to this day, by the way, because, well, as you can see in this and in many other videos, this is fully silicon pad based drum kit. So unfortunately, the kick especially acts completely different as your usual kick drum when you have the head and so on. So I have to constantly fight with this, messing around with the in the setup of the pedal and so on. But I think I found my sweet spot, more or less. I mean, I started with some metal beat, but this was more as a joke because I don't really play metal all that much. I know I released some samurai covers, but that's it. And most of the time I don't kick it that hard. So yeah, I have to fumble. I mean, fumble. That happens too, but I have to all the time. But depends on what I'm playing. Switch the settings. The spring, how far the beater is from the head, and so on. But fortunately, I don't have to do this too often because I simply don't switch genres that often. And like I said, I think I finally, after again, I don't know, 5 years or so, found the sweet spot finally. And 5 years. Yeah, here's the other part. I had a pretty long break of, I think, about 3 years in playing. I returned to to drums as such, as a drum kit. I think about year ago or so. I got motivated from the first cover I released on acoustic drums. I think it was Avalanche by Stellar Darling, and turned out that I still got it because first after I moved, I had some lack of motivation really to play, and for 3 years I barely touched the drums to begin with. Maybe not 3, but like 2 years. Then I switched to percussion because I wanted to have something to do with the drums. And only recently I maybe not convinced myself to the electronic drums, but we just decided to finally have a move on this because I had them just standing and collecting dust for so long, and I thought just it's time to finally get some use from them. So that's the story basically with this electronic drum kit, because, well, the rest is history. You see the channel and what I put on. They also assist me a lot in the recordings because I also do my original music, not released anywhere yet because I don't think it's any suiting. But still, I do it for fun and they assist me a lot. But I use them mostly as a MIDI controller. Because, well, I'm a drummer, and even though probably setting off MIDI drums from pads would be way more efficient way of doing this, and then just looping the pattern, it is still more fun to me to just sit down and play the song than just going over the pads. Especially that, to be honest, for me, setting up the drums from pads is more difficult than just sitting behind a drum kit. I don't know. But okay. That's about electronic drums. Now, my acoustic drums. my beloved Tama Grandstar in deep red finish. Well, those are drums with history, to be honest. Because those are drums that previously belonged to the drummer of Acid Drinkers, a Polish thrash metal band. And, well, they have a special place in my heart because both the drums and the band, because this is from this band basically started my whole journey with music, like for real. And their drummer was my main inspiration to start playing. So when I was able to it was a gift, obviously, to get those drums. This was a no-brainer. Also, they have a one feature which you might have noticed. The drum rack is pretty unusual. Well, because this is actually a custom-made rack from aluminum pipes. Yes, like your regular, I think, water pipes or something like that. Well, the story goes, this drum kit is actually from about mid-1990s. And as you can imagine, in mid-1990s, Poland, fresh out of Eastern Bloc, was not necessarily a super rich country. And Acid Drinkers were already a thing in there, by the way. And their drummer, Ślimak, simply asked, I think it was his friend who, worked with those pipes, to simply assemble him a drum rack. And so they did. And the rack is still today with these drums. And the Tama itself is this Tama drum kit is actually also slightly modified by Ślimak himself. He has his, I think I can say already a signature way of cutting up the bearing edge. He makes them 45 degrees inside and then adds 30 degrees outside. And you can see this also on those drums. I think on the 16 or 18-inch floor tom, you can even see a slight notch, the place where he probably first put the woodcutter, because there's like a bit deeper notch. But I digress, and I have those drums since I was 16, and well, as you can see, they are still standing, playing, and they are older than me. They already were in 1994, because in 1994 Acid Drinkers recorded the album Infernal Connection, on which those drums are playing. If Ślimak bought them new or used, that I do not know. But be that as it may, drums are older than me. Those drums, to be precise. Yes, and well, you can hear them also in many of my covers. Hopefully, there will be a bit more to come on the acoustic drums, because despite me basically converting now to an electronic drum kit just out of pure necessity, whenever I sit behind acoustic drums, this is still my home. And absolutely no electronic drum kit can really provide for that, at least not the electronic drum kit that I ever sat behind. And well, I guess I got a bit sentimental, but okay, I didn't mention one more part. How long am I playing, actually? Because I said that I had a long break, that I have this drum for 5 years, and so on and so on. My very first drum kit, and I guess this is appropriate to talk about it now, I got when I first decided to start playing. I was 12, I think. Yeah, 12. And that was old Polish drum kit from the manufacturer named Polmus. By the way, do not confuse it, because nowadays there is also a manufacturer named Polmus. They are from Gdynia. But the Polmus that I owned has nothing to do with that with the new Polmus. The Polmus I had was from an old company from Poland, or actually from Polish People Republic, because that was set up in, I think, 60s. But I think my drum kit is from 80s. Was, because I don't own it anymore. Was from the 80s. So, yeah, still, Eastern Bloc and so on. And however, I call it Polmus, but this wasn't fully really Polmus. From Polmus, there was only a kick drum and one of the rack toms. The second rock tom and the floor tom were from some no-name company. I had no idea what it was, but I remember the rack tom was pretty unorthodox because it was 12 in diameter but 14 in depth. Guess some things from the 80s. And the snare drum I had was from Amati, another drum manufacturer from Czechoslovakia. The cymbals that I used, first I also had a hi-hat and a crash ride rather, from Polmus, but I quickly got a set of Sabian Pros from my drum teacher. Shout out, Echo, I know you're watching this. And after that, when I got and that drum kit, like I said, I started when I was 12. However, I officially count my years of playing since I think it was 15th or 16th of January 2012 from my first drum lesson, actually. Why? Because as you can see, it was like 1.5 years when I was basically a self-taught drummer, and after I hit 1.5 years also with lessons, I just saw that initial 1.5 years was basically just me using drums as a toy. So I don't count this. I count this as, of course, owning a drum kit, but given that those first years really didn't give me anything other than some problems which I then had to unlearn and some bad habits that I also had to fight, I don't count it in my drumming years. So I count from the first drum lesson, 2012. So yeah, 2.5 years later, from after that first lesson, I got myself the Tama drum kit and I upgraded the cymbals to what I use now. I use Anatolians. And to be honest, I know that I soon have to let go of the Tama, simply because I will not have place to store it anymore, most probably. However, we will see about that. Nothing is yet set in stone. If I do, I will probably also swap this drum kit to something more proper. I am already eyeing one of the Yamaha drum kits. So keep an eye on that, because I'm sure I will make a huge update if I get the new electronic drum kit. And now some of you may ask if this Tama is my dream drum kit or something like this. Obviously, I love it. However, if you'd ask me before I got it, if this is like my go-to drum kit, I would probably say no. I always loved Gretsch drum kits. Still, I have a soft spot for them. And to be honest, as much as I love that Tama from Acid Drinkers, this is more collectible. And I would probably get another drum kit if I could, because as we all know, drums are expensive business. I would probably get another drum kit. Just have this as a collectible piece and play on the other. And as I already foreshadowed, my dream drum kit is probably a Gretsch. I always loved the original round badges from the 60s. If I will ever afford one, I have no idea. Probably not. Also, I don't think they would fit my playing style, because as you can guess, I play a wide variety of stuff, although I am pretty positive that you can play absolutely extreme metal blast beats on the Gretsch round badge, and it will sound good, but I will still not be fully confident, so I will probably go for the Gretsch Renown Maple, which also has a nice feature, because this is a fully maple Gretsch, and it's like somewhere in between the round badge and the Ludwig Classic Maple, which I also love. The toms in Ludwig are insane. And Gretsch, this Renown Maple, has this in between. Like the toms have this power of Ludwig's, but at the same time, they have this distinct Gretsch sound that I love. And the kick drum is also far more firm. I love birch kick drums, so that's also an important factor to me. I don't like when kick drum is, a flat shoe, as I call it. And regarding cymbals, again, you can ask my drum teacher. I was always fan of Sabians, and this is what I still stand stand by. Of course, like I said, I am now using Anatolians. I've been using them for a long time, but that's just because of money reasons. They were fairly cheap and fairly good cymbals, and that was enough for me. But if I were to have this my one go-to setup along with this Gretsch, I would probably go for Sabian HH or HHX set of cymbals. I love them. So that would be it. Regarding the snare drum, this is a tough question. I love steel snares, but I also love maple snares. So probably this leads me to DW Edge, but I also love titanium snares. And like, I probably won't be able to pick like one go-to snare drum. There's too many of them that I like. So like I mentioned, the titanium snare, the Tama Sonic Steel 13x7, I think it's still snare drum. The DW Maples, of course the Ludwig steel snares, but also the Tama Swingstar is a pretty decent snare drum. I had it for a long time with my drum kit, and it sounded really good, and it fit the drum kit. It had this very, as I call it, trashy sound. You know, when you have just a lot of dirt in the sound of drums. I don't know if I make myself clear. I hope so. So this, also from the new Polmuls, they have a snare made from sort of Polish wood. I am not sure how it's called in English. In Polish, it's Jawor. You can try and Google it out. This is a distinctively Polish wood, and I'm just curious, and I want to have the snare drum also as a collectible. I never found a snare drum made out of this wood anywhere else. So I guess that's it. I've been talking for way too long, and well, I guess this is the past, present, and the future of my drums. Thank you all for listening. If you listen to all this through, I know it's long, and I apologize about that, but as you can see, when I talk about something that I really know a thing or two, I just cannot shut up. So, see ya.